What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, back with Palmer Aquatics, where I'm filling my house full of fish tanks until I completely lose my mind. Today I want to talk about keeping aquarium plants in gravel aquariums. I get asked this all the time, and I think it's because people see my videos. My house is full of planted aquariums, and I'm completely obsessed with plants. And I get asked this all the time regarding keeping plants in gravel. Let's deep dive into this. So when you start looking at most of my planted aquariums in the house, you will notice that most of them are using soil. This is organic potting soil that I use below a black sand. And the reason I do this is because it gives the plants so much nutrients and they absolutely love it. So here's the deal. If I plan on growing plants, there's not a chance that I'm going to be using aquarium gravel because it has zero nutrients. But here's the thing. That doesn't mean that you cannot grow aquarium plants if you have gravel. So there are some tips and tricks in certain plants that you need to know about in order to use or effectively have plants with your gravel. And also, don't forget, the easiest hack to keeping these plants in your aquarium is to pot them up. This is super easy. You can put some aquarium soil or substrate in a pot and just plant the plant that way. That way you can give the aquarium plant some nutrients to feed on because gravel just doesn't cut it as far as feeding the aquarium plants. So here's the deal. There's two routes to go as far as keeping aquarium plants in gravel. Number one, you can attempt to keep the plant in the gravel itself. A plant like this, Anacris, will survive in aquarium gravel. So if you do your research and figure on what aquarium plants will actually survive in aquarium gravel, you're going to have a much higher chance. Like this Amazon sword. These actually do fairly decent in gravel, and that's worth noting. And the second route to go is to obviously just put them in a pot. That seems super easy, although others would argue it looks kind of ugly. I don't know. This tank right here has a lot of pots in there, and I feel like we scaped it really nice, and it can be done quite well. So like I said, there's two routes to putting aquarium plants in gravel and having success. Number one, use a certain type of plant. We talked about the Amazon sword, the Anacris, the water sprite, the water wisteria. There's a handful of plants that actually do decent in aquarium gravel, somewhat debatable. And second, you can put them in a pot. And what I do is I put some organic potting soil in that pot, and then I cap it with sand. Probably like 2-3 inches of soil capped with 2 inches of sand, and that gives the plant a ton of nutrients. And this is probably the easiest way to grow aquarium plants in gravel with like huge success, because it's just so easy this way because the plants have nutrients instead of battling putting the plants in the gravel. And maybe like there's the root tabs route. Let's talk about root tabs. So root tabs are essentially a small little gel capsule that are filled with nutrients for the plants. A lot of times what they include are macro nutrients designed for the plant, iron, potassium, and a lot of times they're just essentially dirt, because plants love dirt because it's just nitrates and fertilizer. It's that simple. And what you do is you take this little gel capsule and you go into your gravel aquarium or sand or whatever you have and use a small little tweezers or your hands, and then you just dip it into the substrate below the surface a little bit. That way, some people have issues with the root tabs releasing ammonia in the water column, but that's somewhat debatable on experiences. So the question lies, is it worth it to try or attempt aquarium plants in aquarium gravel? I would say honestly no, but here's the thing. I use gravel aquariums when I'm not trying to use aquarium plants. Maybe I'm just having like a medicated plant or a medicated tank, or maybe it's like a cichlid tank. And if I know I'm doing plants, I'm going to use a nutrient-rich substrate. I know this probably sucks to hear because chances are you have gravel in your aquarium and you're like, hey man, screw off. I'm trying to get plants to go and I have gravel. I get it. I totally get it. So you have two roads to go, really. You can do the pot route where you put the plants in pots, and don't like, a lot of people say it looks ugly. It's not that ugly. Or you can find yourself some black colored pots with a black substrate. That looks really good. Or you can attempt to just get some of the sturdier plants like the Amazon swords, the Anacris, the Water Sprite, the Water Wisteria, maybe some Java Moss, rhizome plants. Those all work great with aquarium gravel. Or you could get super fancy and try some root tabs. You know, those are the gel capsules that we put into Substrate. Just be careful. You make sure you get them deep enough. Don't use too many of them. They can be kind of scary. They're known to leach things into the water column. Guys, I know this sort of sucks, but it is just how the cookie crumbles. And I hate to say it, but if you're looking to kind of like dive deep into aquarium plants, I promise you, just try an aqua soil or get some potting soil capped with sand. You know, I have a bunch of videos devoted to that. Check out my main channel, Palmer Aquatics. There's a super good video in there on how to dirt an aquarium, how I do it. It's my way. I can almost promise results. Like, look at this tank. It looks amazing. Hopefully that helps you guys a little bit. I know this hobby can be stressful sometimes because you're trying to do one thing, but you set up an old thing, an old way. Just try to adapt and just be positive. Don't give up on the hobby because this hobby is so awesome. And please hit up the comment section. I'm wanting to hear from you guys. Do you have a gravel aquarium or a sand aquarium that you're trying to do plants with? Are you new to plants? I love hearing from you guys. I try to get back to all the comments if possible. I'm here if you have questions. Without further ado, guys, please let me know in the comments. How is it going with keeping your aquarium plants in a gravel aquarium?